Good afternoon, councillors, and everyone to the Constitution and Democratic Services Committee on the 21st of January. The reason I'm introducing the meeting today is because we have a new chair, Councillor Hilary McGuill, who was appointed by Council, I think it was September now? Because the Democratic and Constitution Committee chair is appointed by Council, and this is the first meeting since then, so I will hand over to our new chair, Councillor Hilary McGuill.
Thank you very much. Right. Thank you, everybody. Please, can you make sure that your phones are on silent? And then, right, we can start now. I think the first thing on the agenda is the election of a vice chair, really, because we don't have a vice chair, so we need to have somebody elected from the floor, please. Now, is there a restriction on who the vice chair, which party they can belong to?
No, Chair. There's no restriction on the vice chair. It's only the chair that is restricted in the groupings that can hold the chair of this committee. The vice chair can be from any group on council.
Okay, right. Thank you. Can I have a nomination from the floor? Right. Any other nominations? Any online?
Councillor Broccoli, hand up there, I think.
Councillor Broccoli, are you wishing to nominate?
Oh, no, sorry, no.
I was just going to say I didn't hear who was nominated in the room. That's all. Thank you.
Sorry.
Can you read?
I propose Councillor Hodge.
Did you get that? Yeah. Okay. All right. Are there any other nominations? No? Okay. Those in favour, please show. Thank you. I think any against? Abstentions? One abstention. Okay. Thank you. Right. That's carried. Welcome.
Could I just clarify, because I know there were issues around the vice chair stepping in for the chair. I'm just wondering, as chair, whether you could work with the Democratic Services Manager, just to say that where, heaven's sake, you're not going to be indisposed, but where you were indisposed, whatever, that the vice chair is taking over, and it's a purely procedural issue, and that they are not the chair in terms of managing the business of this committee as you would do.
Yeah, we were just discussing that before. So, can you clarify that, please?
Yes, Chair, that's exactly the case, that the vice chair would step in the absence of the chair just for that one particular meeting. The chair is in control of the Constitution Committee, Constitution Democratic Service Committee agendas and work programme. So that does meet the requirements. And as per Gareth Owen, the Chief Officer's explanation at the last meeting about the process, it is literally a procedural matter that allows the vice chair to be from any particular grouping.
Sorry, Chair, and is that being minuted?
Yes, and it's on public record as well. So yes, yeah.
Any other questions? No. Okay. Right. Move on to agenda item 2, which is 1 now. Sorry. Apologies. Any apologies?
Chair, we have. Sorry, Chair. We have Councillor Richard Lloyd substituting for Councillor Ted Palmer. We also have a change of membership. We have Councillor Linda Thew, who's replaced Councillor Dave Mackey on the committee. So welcome, Linda, to committee. And I think that's all. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Any declarations of interest? Any whipping? No. Okay. Thank you. Right. We'll move on to agenda item number 3, the minutes. Right. Obviously, I wasn't here for these minutes, so I'd like somebody to propose them as okay. Right. So if we can go through them, and then we'll have a proposer. Usually I have a proposer beforehand, but obviously you have something on the minutes. Okay, let's go through them then. Page 1. Right.
On the present councillors, Councillor Jason Shallcross was subbing for me on that day, and he's down as also present. I've got the email from Steve. Could that just be amended to show that he was attending on my behalf? Thank you.
Thank you for letting us know. Okay, right. Anything on page 3? Anything? No, those. Okay, all right. Page 4. Yeah, okay. Page 5. Page 6. Page 7. And finally, page 8. Page 8.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. On the November meeting in the Forward Work Programme, there was a notice on there which said a request has been referred to the committee to examine the use of motions on notice under section 11 of the Constitution and questions under section 9. That doesn't seem to have appeared in the Forward Work Programme. It was down to appear today on the 21st of January as in the agenda item at the November meeting, which seems to be missing.
Chair, Councillor Lloyd is correct that it should be on the Forward Work Programme. That's an omission on my part, so I do apologise, and I will address that as part of that item when we get to the Forward Work Programme for the committee on item 5.
Thank you for raising that. Obviously, I wouldn't have picked up on that. Thank you. Thank you. Right, can I have a mover with those alterations on? Thank you. Seconder? Thank you. Right, those in favour? Right, thank you. It's carried. Right, so could we move on now to agenda item 4, which is the action tracking.
Thank you, Chair, and I apologise that all the reports are from me today, so you'll probably be sick of my voice, so I do apologise, everyone. The action tracking report is the standing item that comes back every month to committee, and Appendix 1 includes the details of those actions from previous meetings. What we'll notice is that I've closed the timing device for this room because we won't be here for much longer, so we are moving the timing device from the chamber here across the auditorium at TW Sound. So effectively that resolves that item there. In terms of declarations of interest and whipping declarations, the request or a question was asked about separating them for the meeting. If they are declared at a particular committee, we will show them separately on the minutes rather than in the agenda. So as the chair did today, she asked for declaration then whipping declaration separately, so we will note that separately if that is made at that time. So I've closed that one off just because that will happen now moving forward. And in relation to Councillor Parker's questioning, I think it was last committee about the publishing of the updated model constitution, that's open currently. That's just we're just going through the final checks and the translations before that is published and promoted. So we hope that will be done before the next committee meeting. Happy to take any questions on that report.
Any questions? Online? In the chamber? No. Can I have a mover then, please? Thank you. Move. Seconder, thank you. Those in favour? Okay, carried. Thank you. Good. Move on now to agenda item 5, the Forward Work Programme. I'll hand you over again to Steve.
Thank you, Chair. And again, this is a standing item that comes back to committee every time it meets, just to clarify the items for the committee to consider in future months. And those are listed in Appendix 1. Members will note the omission, as kindly pointed out by Councillor Lloyd, of the report that's due for the questions from members and motions on notice, which was requested came from several quarters, but was put forward at a council meeting, but also at an earlier committee meeting. and that will run alongside the meeting arrangements report, which is scheduled for next month. They kind of tie in quite nicely together about how we look at meetings and moving that forward. Members will also note that there is the request for the review of the governance and audit terms of reference, because there was a suggestion that they may be overstepping their remit and straying into the role of scrutiny committees. So that will be looked at in the June meeting. But members of the committee and members of the council widely are welcome to suggest items for inclusion on the forward work programme, and we will take those as we receive them and schedule them accordingly. But happy to take any questions on the reports that's scheduled there.
Thank you, Steve. I believe that we have a question on the forward work programme, something which is to be added. Councillor?
Yeah, just wondered if we could look at possible DBS checks for councillors in the near future.
I think that's a fair request.
Sorry, Chair, I thought that had been dealt with earlier on. I thought that was done. Sorry.
Why wasn't a member of this committee?
Chair, we have had DBS checks come to council before. I can't remember the exact timing of it, but there was quite a detailed report that came. So if I can reference that report for now, and if we need to do a further report update, we can bring that to a future committee. I'll review the report as it was presented. I can't remember when it was now. I do apologise, but it was a while ago now. Certainly in the current scheduled meetings for this year anyway. But I will pick that up and check, and if needed, we can bring one back for a future committee.
Has it been within the last 12 months?
Whether it comes as part of meeting arrangements or what, but would it be possible to look at some issues around the procedures of some of the meetings that we go and hold? Because I feel that some of the meetings, particularly council, whatever, are not particularly edifying, and I think they could be distinctly improved by looking at the practices in other councils, whereby we can make them more democratic and more open. So, if I just pull out one, for example, when we have notice of motions, you can propose from the floor and whatever, and sometimes those can get terribly confused. Whereas I know the councils, for example, have looked at how you put notice of motions forward and avoid some of the confusion that we seem to get ourselves into. There's things like, for example, we have, I raised it, that our meetings finish at 5 o'clock. But there's no starting time listed. And I would guess that 5 o'clock limit was imposed when we had meetings that began at 2. So I think that perhaps some of that wording, those issues could be addressed. But I have a whole number of issues which come around here. We have call-ins, for example, which appear during the summer holiday break when people are on holiday. I'm sure there must be a way around that we can find. We have issues around questions which other councils, I suspect, looking at their standing orders, have had issues with, which are time limited or they're allocated to different parties, and how that goes and works, which isn't a matter of stopping questions being put to cabinet members. I think accountability is really, really important, but they're done in a way in which it's equally shared, and there are better procedures than the one perhaps we go and do, which is like first come, first served. I know there have been issues around standing orders for scrutiny committees that have been raised there. I'm just going through my list. One that Steve and I have talked about as well. We've looked at, there are, for example, Holiday Hunger Working Group and the Fair Funding Working Group. Working groups appointed by the full council aren't actually listed in the standing orders. We have nothing to kind of guide us on how those work. And if we're going to have those, I think there should be some better and clearer guidance within the constitution. Other things that have been raised, I know this is me putting my hat on as cabinet member for finance, but certain councils recognise that when you're putting the standing orders you have for budget meetings and the preparation for the budget actually has to be handled differently to the way that other meetings would be handled. So there's like a procedure about who says what and how it goes through. And I would like, perhaps that could be reviewed. These are all things I feel could be reviewed moving forward. And so apart from the meeting arrangements, just having a look at the meetings and procedural arrangements for council, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, we've already spoken about this, haven't we? I'll let Steve answer your question here.
I think it's always important to review and improve on how we do things, certainly. And just for reference for members of the committee, particularly, that if we were look at members' questions or motions on notice, as it's the official term, I know we refer to notice of motion, but we would look across not just Wales but across England as well for any best practice to see what other authorities do to enhance the process, not restrict it, but to enhance the process so that democracy does work in a more effective and direct manner. And certainly take on board the suggestions from Councillor Johnson there to include in the scope of some of the things we're looking at, and welcome any further ones. But it's important that we do ensure that the guidance, as in the Constitution, does allow for clear and concise guide for both members who are putting things forward, but also officers, members who are dealing with those as well. And at times, there's some discrepancies between certain processes. For an example, questions, if we look at questions, I've looked at this already as part of the work planning for next committee. But public questions have some restrictions on what can and can't be asked. Member questions don't. I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but there's ways that the committee can sort of look at that and say which would work better. So there's always something we can look at and certainly enhance and improve process rather than the opposite. So that's what we're here to do, is to make things better for everyone. So
Okay with that?
Absolutely. I think it's what we do is to enhance our democracy, and that's the key thing about it. It's not about restricting anything, but about making it better for all members.
Right, Councillor Lloyd.
You can, Chair. There isn't a meeting. There is a meeting in February. It's 25th of March, and that is quite a long time away. And I don't mind people knowing that the request was made by myself to add to the list of criteria of the next Constitution Committee prohibition on bringing notice of motions to full council that are substantially the same as a call-in process. When that call-in process decided on option 2, which was to implement the decision, not agree with it in such a way, but to implement it, and option 4 was to send it to full council, which was not agreed on and not voted on. I did have a reply, and I was told in September, end of September, that will be raised at the next meeting for inclusion in the forward work programme. I did also add, as well as that request, to add to the forward work programme, a prohibition on bringing it to a notice of motion to full council, and also to a request to the committee to include in the Constitution a limit on the number of questions that are allowed to be asked at council meetings. I think we all know why that request went in. I am disappointed that it's not on. I accept Steve's reasoning for that, but I think it's an urgent item, really, and I think it should be discussed as soon as possible. Otherwise, this is going to keep happening again and again. And I say I did make the request at the end of September, so I am disappointed that it's not appeared. And it's just
I can understand your frustration on this. Had you approached me before today with this request, I'm sure that I could have dealt with it today. But coming now, it's making it a bit awkward for me as a new chair coming in. I'll pass you over to Steve for.
I'm not suggesting, Chair, that we deal with it today. Now we can't, because at the time I think Councillor Davis was the chair when I made the request. But I would like not to wait till 25th of March to make a decision on this, if possible, because I think it's fairly urgent to be decided.
Just for clarity on that, I was not chair. Councillor Hodge was sitting in for me, because that's when I had to come out of the chair.
Right, just so members are aware, if this committee recommends or decides to make a change to the constitutional guidance, it has to go to full council. They can refer it to full council. It's not a decision of this committee
No,
that would
I
happen
understand.
necessarily, so it has to go to full council. And what we're looking to do is the meeting arrangements that's scheduled for March may highlight some other changes to the constitution. So what we're looking to not be doing is doing every meeting of council going through the constitution. So the intention is that March is the time for this committee to meet to sort of ratify or recommend any particular amendments to constitution. They will then go to the full council, likely April, for readiness for the next civic cycle of meetings from May. So that was the sort of reasoning behind the sort of planning of that, really, because there's quite a number of items which Councillor Johnson's highlighted, not just from today, but other members have suggested other ones as well to take account of, and there are quite a range of them to look at. So we didn't want to do it piecemeal and do one sentence 1 month, a paragraph the next, and so it's doing it as one larger piece of work effectively to ensure that it is right for the next term of council. So, and I have my apologies to Councillor Lloyd that it was raised some time ago and it has taken a significant amount of time to get to before committee. So I will offer my apologies to Councillor Lloyd and the committee for that delay.
If we have this up and running and we discuss it and it goes before full council, before the next cycle of council, is that acceptable?
Yes, Chair. Thank you.
I will ensure that happens. Thank you. Councillor Thew.
Prynhawn Dal Diolch Cadeirydd. I'd like to propose a review of the Constitution to the political balance process when members change parties. As you know, recently a number of people have switched allegiance and formed new groups. As a result, I wasn't able to speak in any committees for 10 weeks. And I just think it just seems archaic. Would it not be possible to remain on the committees that you are presently on until such time as political balance is found? I felt totally disenfranchised by the whole process, and I'd also like to have a review of the deputy chair positions. It seems to be a muddy waters, as you yourself, Chair, questioned that at the beginning of this meeting. I think that needs to be addressed as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thew.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Thew, for those suggestions. Now, my understanding of political balance is that it's a statutory requirement that dictates when and how that happens. Now, I also understand that at the moment, seats are allocated to groups rather than individuals. If you're a group has a number of seats, so if you leave that group, it's for the group to determine where those seats sit. So they can leave them with the individual leaving that group if they so choose. They don't, but it's in their gift to give them to who they decide to allocate them to. So I understand the frustration in terms of the time lag that has taken place of recent times when council the ones that has to approve political balance. But it's something we can look at. But I just need to make sure that we're not circumventing any legislation that precludes how we manage political balance before we commit to that, Chair. And in terms of the review, Deputy, happy to take that as an action to look at as part of the review of processes and procedures, certainly. Yeah.
I think Councillor Thew made a very, very sensible request there, that you remain on the committee you are on until it's sorted. And that seems to me to be quite sensible. I don't know what the rest of the committee think about that. Can I have some feedback on that, please?
I'd just like to say, like Steve said, it's got to fall in with, you know, the rules according to it. Because at the end of the day, if the political balance is wrong and you don't have that seat, well, it's only right that it should be moved to where it should be. It's got to be legitimate, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, well, Billy beat me to it, exactly virtually what I was going to say.
Why does it keep going off when I put it on? Okay. The formation of the groups, and now I'm referring to planning committee now, and it was decided at the last full council meeting that any group with 5 or more should have a place on the planning committee, and they were allocated that. And in 9.3.2 of the constitution, it does say that this is about the planning committee. The committee will consist of 17 councillors, and its composition will be politically balanced. Now, at this moment in time, I've got 15 members on the planning committee, and I'm concerned now if those groups don't take up those positions, which they were asked to do, and it was passed at a full council meeting, that I might not be quorum. If you've got a few people ill, I need 9 on the committee to make it quorum. And I'm always worried that I'm in danger of not having a quorum meeting. So I've made that request at planning committee that the groups that have been offered places on that planning committee to take them up. And I think it's important that they should do, because it was agreed by full council. Otherwise, they're breaking the rules of the constitution, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Parkhurst?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Your comments about it being desirable that committee members remain on their committees until the balance is reassessed, to me sounds a sensible course. Whether it is possible to have that formally in the constitution, I don't know. Steve Goodwin will no doubt work on that one, but I guess it also is down to the goodwill of the different political groups, and it might be something that is more of a convention than a formal rule. The last time where there was a major change in group membership, it was quite obvious that one group was completely absent from the different committees, and that just didn't feel right. So Chair, you asked for views, and that's my view. I do share your view. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Sue? Councillor Sue, you have your hand up
Yes.
still.
Yeah, I'm here. I'd just like to respond to Councillor Lloyd in the fact I offered to deputise for Councillor Ellis on planning at the last meeting, but I was told that I wouldn't be able to deputise. You can't deputise because Councillor Ellis was unwell, and I was told I was not able to deputise. And going back to Councillor Parkhurst, it would be very rare, I would think, that it would be any length of time that the member would sit on another committee. So it may only be perhaps one, under normal circumstances, one committee meeting. So that's not sort of going to sway too much. And in light of the vice chair positions now, when we look at the makeup of our parties at the moment, the two most populated parties have such heavy weight for them. There's not very much opposition, so I think it makes it there's not much political balance, shall we say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sue. I think I'll call on Steve to explain why you can't just jump into planning. You have to have training.
That's part of the reason, Chair. For certain committees, you have to be trained to be able to sit on those committees. But with planning, the rules are that you cannot offer a substitution of planning. So that's the one committee that you can't sub on, regardless of whether that's offered or not. So that's one of the that's set in legislation, I do believe. And in terms of political balance, I understand that there are a number of things to consider but what I need to go back as I said earlier, is confirm against the legislation. The legislation dictates how political balance is worked out and formulated and adhered to. So it's whether we can do anything around that, but staying within that sort of very, very clear legislation that has to take place. So the way it works currently is perfectly, and I know there's issues around perceived fairness, but it is the correct way of doing it currently. When I will come back to committee and advise whether that can be done in a different way in future times.
Yeah. Providing the rules allow.
Absolutely.
Okay, right. Thank you. If you can move on now. Anything else from the forward work programme? I think we've got a good forward work programme for the next.
Pretty busy now.
Very busy, I think. And right. So that can we have the recommendations then that the committee consider the draft forward work programme, and we've approved it to members. Thank you. Second, right. Those in favour? Thank you. And the Democratic Service Manager, in consultation with myself, be authorised to vary the forward work programme between meetings as the need arises. Okay. You move. Second, thank you. Those in favour? Thank you. Okay, that's carried. Right, now we get on to the meat. Thank you. The meat course. Right. Agenda item 6. Facilities following the office rationalisation and update. Over to you, Steve.
Thank you, Chair. And this is literally to update members of the committee on discussions that the working group had when it met week before last, I think it was now. And just to give some further context to the move from when we vacate County Hall and move over to Tee Dewi Sant in Ewloe. And there are, in paragraph 103, the main sort of considerations that we're looking at as a committee and group. And I've split those out into the different paragraphs subsequently after those are there. So council meetings, obviously the council currently meets hybridly at the moment. We're quite fortunate in County Hall that we have the current room, Dell room, that we can meet in for smaller committees, and the chamber for large committees. In Tee Dewi Sant, there is the one room, it's currently called the auditorium, which will host all council meetings. It's quite a sizable room, and it's currently being refurbished and rekitted out for such meetings. What that would mean is, and a note regret to members, I think it was last week, advising that the equipment from Dell room will be repurposed from this room and reused over at the auditorium and added to with additional cameras, microphones, etc., to ensure that, because the size of the room means that it will require a different setup. So at the moment we host hybrid meetings, but for February the intention would be to move meetings to remote only. What that does actually mean is that, or with budget setting process, the screening committees that would have gone remote are actually going to be moved to the chamber because we're expecting larger numbers of. I'm digressing slightly, but they're just as an update there. But the work is currently ongoing in the auditorium to kit it out. There are 3 potential layouts that it will be used for. So smaller committee meetings such as this, the larger council meetings, and they'll be formatted in certain ways. And I'm advised that from early February, we can allow or arrange for members to start visiting and getting the bearings around the building to see how it feels and looks. It won't be fully functioning then, because there's obviously a lot of work in terms of the IT that needs to be moved across. That's being done for the first 2 weeks of February, and then subsequently, once we're finished with the chamber, we'll move the microphones from there across as well. So come March, when we're out of County Hall, meetings will likely take place from the auditorium over there. So there is some working to do about fitting everyone in, and we'll work on that as we get access to the room. But we are working through that currently. The second one is member services, and that's quite an interesting one because in County Hall there's always been a designated area where members have traditionally gone to access member services. Pre-COVID, that was quite heavily resourced. Over time, that has dwindled to just appoint 8 members of my team to look after members, and they also look after the chairman as well, their diary, and it's quite a demanding role for that individual, and she does a grand job, I have to say. But there won't be a specific location at TW Sant designated as member services, and that kind of fits in with how the arrangement works now, where the individual officer tends to work remotely anyway currently, but does come in as the need arises to meet with the chairman or whomever, and that will continue. So as members and officers have evolved to work in a different way, as member services, it will continue to adapt, but it will also, and we will also ensure that there is that accessibility for members should you need that assistance. We will have a presence in TW Sant in a location where we will be based as a team, so we will ensure that we do have, if you need that access, we will make sure that that is available for members. But we are working through that currently to get that ready for March. Group rooms, we've been very fortunate at County Hall where we've been able to reserve rooms specifically for individual groups. When you get to TW Sant, you will recognise that the building's not as spacious. It's quite compact, and there isn't the luxury of having a wealth of rooms that can be allocated just solely for groups to use as and when they so choose, and for their sole use. Meeting space will be at a premium in TW Sant. So one way around that we're looking at is to give access to members for the corporate booking system, the room booking system. So if a group does require a room, they can book a room on that system and meet there. There are also a number of locations around TW Sant which allow breakout, the sort of like pods where groups can meet. And there's a large area on I'm not sure which floor it is, but on the top floor, I think it is, where it's quite a spacious area where there is sort of zones where meetings can take place if need be. So it's just to sort of give that really. The other thing as well is that the groups, and it was alluded to earlier, that the groups can change through a cycle of council, and they have changed several times in the 2.5 years since we've been here. So to ensure that we are not wasting rooms or using rooms for council purposes, it's difficult to allocate a set number of rooms, because we could have 3 groups one year and 10 the next, as an example. So we can't. It's impossible really to shuffle that around over at TW Sant. But members can be assured that rooms or spaces available should they need that. Chairman's room. When I wrote this report, there wasn't a specific allocation for a room, but we have now been. There are 2 locations identified as likely candidates for that room. So the chairman, who does host a number of meetings with dignitaries locally, and school visits, for example, and head of council and post council. There will be a facilities available for the chairman to or chairperson, whichever the right term is to access moving forward. Storage is limited in TW Sant, and we're aware of that. So as our service and others are doing, they're having to sort of review what they keep and what they don't keep. So we're going through cupboards, sort of making sure that what we have in place or do want to store is necessary to keep stored. One of the issues is that we have some civic ceremonial regalia that we do have to, that's quite valuable, so we need to make sure that is securely stored, so that will be taken care of. But the likes of elections, they have a lot of equipment for when they host elections, so it's where that gets stored at the moment. So we are looking at alternatives for storage there. So, but that's not so much for this committee's consideration, it's more for mine in the service to make sure that we have that functionality there. There are a number of artefacts and gifts displayed around County Hall currently, mainly out in the Land Leather corridor, the corridor where all the meeting rooms are. And a lot of those are hosted by, I'm not sure the service name, but like the archive service, etc. They look after those for the council, and they will continue to do so. But so the cabinets will be repurposed, likely in different locations, along with the artifacts that are there. So nothing will be lost. It will all be kept safe and used around, probably more so around Flintshire in different locations, in all likelihood. Name boards is quite an interesting one. There's an example on the back of the room here, the Delin board there. And one possibility is that rather than trying to move them and repurpose and re-site them at T Dewi Sant on the walls there is potential to use an online software tool which does allow you to create name boards in different formats, and that could be displayed on the council's website and possibly on screens in T Dewi Sant on a rolling basis, so that it's more interactive and a bit more visual. Not saying that we will lose necessarily, but we are looking at what we do with the actual name boards currently. Obviously, likewise, there are a lot of civic pictures and photographs around previous chairs along the corridor. It's whether we recite those in T Dewi Sant somewhere if there's a room that lends to that, possibly the auditorium, or again we could look to host them on a virtual gallery, which allows people outside to have access to them as well. But I think that in paragraph 113, it's quite key that we need to ensure that facility for members is realistic and given the constraints of the council facing at the moment around financial constraints particularly, but also space that's available to utilise. We have evolved in the way we work, both officers and councillors. I think that needs to be taken into consideration as well. So how we move going forward will also be a factor. And the final paragraph in that sort of paragraph, if you like, is that rather than the working group finish, I think it's key that continues to monitor how that move goes across, because obviously we finish here on the 27th, 28th of February. We pick up again on the 3rd of March. We need to make sure that transition is as orderly and smooth. So I think it's key that the working group does maintain its existence until such time as maybe the March-June meeting when it can be report back to say this is what we were expecting, this will happen, and this is how we're going to address those forward. I think it's also important to recognise that there will likely be teething troubles in the first month or so, and obviously I would guess that there'll be quite interest from members about visiting and attending meetings at T Dewi Sant. Please bear with us as well, because it's new to us and our service and officers. We will do our best to assist and make it as smooth as possible, but we're reliant on other things as well, IT, etc. So please bear with us as well, and bear that in mind that we're at the coalface with you, probably explain the same things as you. So we will do our best to make it as seamless and smooth as possible. And I'll stop talking now, Chair, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Steve. Yes, I think you're being optimistic in saying that there'll be teething troubles for about a month. I would say there'll be probably more for about 6 months. Right, let's open this to questions. Councillor Lloyd.
Thank you, Chair. State. Yeah, teething problems. Yeah, might be back now. Planning committee in March, we're doing online. They probably made you, or they haven't made you aware yet. I had a message off Matthew Barry Davis, and just in case there's any teething problems, just to be on the safe side, the planning committee will be online in March. I'm not sure what the date is, but it's in the diary, isn't it? The February one will be here still. I was just curious about the Lord Barry Jones name chamber. Is that going to be transferred to the auditorium, or I'm just curious about that one, really. It's a nice place, T Dewi Sant. I mean, I've been there a few times because planning's in there, isn't it? There used to be a cafe upstairs, because that's quite a big room up there, isn't it? So that'll be utilised for something, I presume. So there's a working group set up at the moment, is there? Yeah. So you've got names down for your working group, have you? Be interested to know who they are. I won't be on it because I'm not on this committee normally. But yeah, it's fine. I think it'll be a good move, and I think it'd be nice for people to go and have a look round. You won't get lost there the same as you get lost in this. Well, it was worse when they had the other two buildings, wasn't it? It's a nicer building, and it's nearer for me because you're nearer to Somley than here. So there you go. Looking forward to it. Okay. Oh, thank you. Yeah. Oh,
Can you address that?
Yes, absolutely.
Lord Barry Jones.
The intention is to rename the auditorium as the Lord Barry Jones Chamber. I was hoping that wouldn't come up today, to be honest, but it's because it's how we do that. Because obviously, it's the ceremony was held at County Hall to do that. So it's whether we do a similar type of rename across there and possibly invite Lord Barry to that in the future. We will consider that and look at that moving forward. The cafe area on the top floor, I think it's the top floor. I'll call it the top floor, but there's quite a nice open plan, and there's two outside areas, if weather permits, to use as well. And there are, as I understand, at the moment plans to reopen that to serve, like in the morning, breakfast products, bacon, baps, sausage, whatever, and things like that. And then a lunchtime service as well, likely. Because I would assume that Tŷ Dewi Sant will be a lot more. Well, there'll be a lot more people around than there are currently in County Hall, because obviously it's a smaller building and there's more services being relocated to there. And I will try to find the names of the groups. I should know them off the top of my head, but I can't remember them. I do apologise. I was going to say I was just looking for now, but yeah, it's in the minutes, and because it was agreed by this committee, the names of those. So, so yeah. So I think that's all the questions, Councillor.
Yeah. Councillor.
Just a couple of questions, Steve. Well, one question, one observation. Most groups like to meet right before the full council meeting, so you might find your electronic meeting booking system gets overloaded before the full council meeting. But the question is, if we're going to do familiarisation in the new building, would it be preferable to actually arrange maybe 2 or 3 designated times for us all to meet together and all of us get the same tour of the building, as opposed to just one people going up on their own? Yeah, that was it.
Yes, thanks, Chair. Thank you, Councillor, for that. Yeah, I mean, I'm aware that groups do like to meet pre-council on council days, and we will look at how we can ensure that continues for the groups. There's a lot of things that need to be worked through, and I think the first council meeting that's due to take place at Tŷ Dewi Sant is the April meeting, so I think it's the 2nd or 3rd of April from memory. So what my team service will be doing, we'll be running some sort of trials, if you like, to make sure that things are up and running for that particular time, and to try and mitigate some of those teething troubles that we may or may not experience when we get over there. So we are looking as a team to plan that through in our work cycle for the coming months to minimise any problems. Visits. So yeah, it's probably as well that rather than go individually, that members do. We are looking to arrange scheduled tours, whatever you want to call them, visits to Tŷ Dewi Sant, because currently it's the adaptations are being made to the building, so it's building sites, so you can't access everywhere that you need to get to. I'm told that come early February there should be less alterations being made, so there'll be more access to where we need to get to. So what I would probably suggest is as a sensible way forward is the working group go initially in the first wave, and then we look to open it out to other groups, not groups as in political groups, but individual groups of members to go and see firsthand Tŷ Dewi Sant. From my point of view, that makes more sense from organising, because if you organise up on the say the 3rd of April en masse, 6-7 members come together, you won't know where you're going back, with due respect. We'll be struggling to direct you. So if you're more familiar beforehand, it kind of helps everyone out to know what's what there and what the facilities are like and where to access different things. So we can then assist those that do need assistance to get to where they need to get to. So yeah, we will look at that as a logical way forward and sensible way forward, Council.
We're looking at early February.
That's fine. I know some members have been. Sorry, I've only ever been once, and that was for the Eco Forum, wasn't it? with regards to our green agenda. So I've never been it.
Councillor Brackley?
Sorry, thank you, Chair. I just got a few points, if that's okay. With regards to not having group rooms, because group rooms are important to our political groups, and I know that the number can change throughout the year, but to not have any and just say that there is room space available if you book in advance. Well, what if all the groups want to book in advance, and as Councillor Hodges just said, before full council, as groups like to meet? What happens to those groups that aren't going to have anywhere to meet? I mean, could we say make sort of 5 rooms available and give them to the longest established groups, or the 5 long established groups, for example, or offer to a token rent to some political groups, you know, to discourage any groups that, or to, if groups don't want to take it up, then fair enough. But also, I was going to ask as well, with the size of the new auditorium, well, the new Lord Barry chamber, what if all councillors want to attend full council? I know that there is the option for hybrid, but what if they all want to attend full council? What will happen then? Thank you. And also for having, at the moment, obviously in county we have all the historical artifacts on the walls and other pictures of past chairs. What will happen to them? And having a changeable sort of PowerPoint in the foyer, I don't think, I personally, I'm not a big fan of that. I think it would look quite cheap in comparison to what we have now. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve, you take those, please.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Brockie. I understand the concern about group rooms, but I think it's important to understand what group rooms are used for and what's kept in them. Officers won't have their own room, as far as I'm aware, or I certainly won't, and others won't. We're having to hot desk ourselves, so it's sort of understanding how and what we use rooms for. I will give a commitment to the committee that we will look to ensure that there is available space for groups ahead of council meetings, because I think that does or is an important factor that groups do like to meet beforehand. I don't think it's right that we restrict it to the long-standing groups, because obviously the newer groups may be bigger, or so I think all groups should be treated equally, and we look at a scenario that works fairly for them all. So we will look to make sure that, and that's working through at the moment. So it's looking at how we can ensure that does happen for members and groups to have. Capacity in the auditorium may or may not. We need to get in there next and test the different setups and formats of the meeting room to ensure that it can accommodate if all members choose to attend, which they're within their rights to do so currently. But again, until we can get in there and start playing with the furniture and moving it around into certain sort of scenarios and setups, we won't know which is going to work best. So that's why through February and into early March, that's what we'll be doing as our service, to make sure that it can accommodate the right numbers and is comfortable, I think, as well, because we don't want you to sit as sardines snuggled together. We need to make sure that that there is sufficient room. So it is a smaller room than the current council chamber, but obviously the council chamber does have quite a lot of gaps and space around between things. So we are looking at making sure that it can accommodate as many as possible. All the artifacts take on board those points, and we won't lose the artifacts. They will certainly be retained and on display somewhere. The location will be determined probably over the coming months as we move. It could be that we have different display cases around either TDO Centre or in public areas. Possibly libraries could make use of them or whatever. So there will be scope for that. And I think it's key that we do ensure that we sort of get a blend between I'll call it modern. I don't know if that's the right term, but visual displays in terms of the rotating screen can help with certain things, but people may choose or prefer to have a physical object on the wall to look at. So we will look at to make sure that there is an adequate blend of those for history, but also for because engagement with children, because when the children come to visit County Hall currently, we do show them, if rooms are available, we do show them all the artifacts and things, and they get to look around. So we don't want to lose that either. So it's trying to make sure that we can maintain that sort of level and not lose the traditions and history that the council has built up over time. So I think that was the points there, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, if I can move on now. Councillor Mullin.
Yeah, I didn't catch it quite fast as I should do. But regarding the data centre, are we going to have a period where we're going to lose that data for information, or will it be transferred over the weekend and continue? Just if you can clarify that, please.
Yeah, so Chair, I mean, the idea is that on the 28th of February, or probably late 27th of February, actually, the Thursday, the systems are moved from or switched off in County Hall, and then over that weekend they're transported and moved and set up at TDO Sant, ready for action on Monday. Yeah. There will be some loss to certain software packages, although I believe that emails, etc., will continue because they're not hosted by that date. They're hosted in the cloud or wherever. So cloud-hosted systems will continue on the whole, but there will be some temporary disruption to some services until the Monday when it all comes back online. So yeah, that's being taken care of over a weekend. So there's minimal downtime as possible and minimal impact to service users, but also that general public, but also councils and officers as well.
Okay, thanks for that clarification. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Parkhurst.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'd like to ask Steve Goodrum how many meeting rooms there are in TDO Sant, because I'm conscious that open plan meeting spaces are probably not suitable for discussions prior to full council. So, and I'm pleased that you are committed to ensuring there is fair allocation, but I'm just wondering if the actual capacity of the meeting rooms is there, or whether there needs to be any more formed. My other question is regarding the capacity of the auditorium. It's important that the public have access to full council meetings as well as members, and I'm wondering what the intention is there. I do recall at a previous meeting it being suggested that perhaps Theatre Clwyd might be an option to consider, where larger meetings are thought likely.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Parker, for the questions. I don't know the exact number of rooms that are available at TDO Sant. There are still work in progress, with certain rooms either being expanded or split according to need. So there are a certain. I mean, I can get that number for you from the project team once that's been finalised, because there's still sort of some work going on around that and discussions around that. But there are varying size rooms, so some of the rooms will be suitable for smaller groups, some for the larger groups, so that there will be sufficient spaces for the different sizing of groups that there currently is. In terms of the auditorium, yeah, public access and public, we are a public authority, so public access is a key element of that. So that will be factored into our plans as a team to make sure that does continue. I mean, we don't have as many members of the public present at meetings that we perhaps would like or would encourage, apart from certain meetings that have taken place of recent. And to encourage that is sort of welcome to raise that profile. And Councillor Parker is right that there is, I understand that there will be space available at the theatre should we so choose to make use of that for any particularly large events that we are hosting. So there is sort of flexibility, if you like, and scope to have that available. That obviously will depend on when Theatre Clwyd becomes available and their works are finished as well. So I think there's a sort of overlap in terms of that's not available for a period of time after we move. So that's something we need to work through ourselves well. And as a team, we will be looking to plan ahead to ensure that those larger meetings are taken care of accordingly. Notably, the annual meeting. I'm thinking, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Wigram.
It was just on 1.1 of the display of artefacts. I mean, Steve's touched on this already, but as you walk around, County Hall, there's so much history here, but some of it is quite area specific as well. You've got like an engine from D-side as other bits and pieces. Would it not be possible to offer them up to sort of like civic halls and places like that? Display, make sure everything. If we put stuff into storage, it'll stay there forever and we'll never see it again. And it would be lost, which is a shame.
I can assure you the last thing will be putting it into storage, and that we are hoping that it will be on display somewhere. I can assure you of that one.
Absolutely, there is plans underway to make sure that the engine is being relocated. I'm not sure where, but it won't be lost. So we have done an inventory of all the artifacts that are on display, etc. So I think if you look in reception, you can't see it as clearly, but there's a nice mural on the wall behind the pods there, and I think we're looking to repurpose that if it's possible to.
Yeah,
because it's built into the building, isn't it? So
yeah.
It was even things like the glass in the chamber, at the back. They're so. I mean, they must be able to be repurposed, even if they're used as a piece of art somewhere. Those are the kind of things that can't be lost. The grey floor tiles, yeah, but not the.
Right, Councillor Davis.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Most things have been covered actually by Steve and other members, particularly on Theatre Clwyd and the use of. But as a former member of Clwyd County Council, I'm concerned that what will happen to the glass panel, the former chairman. Thank you.
I think is that the one you mean in the Clwyd room? Because there's ones in different rooms, isn't there?
Yes, the one in the Clwyd room, yeah.
Yeah. Again, we will look to ensure that we don't lose those, because they are a nice display as one, but they're also a historical record of the council and tradition. So I think it's important that we do try and retain that as much as possible, certainly. And I'll feed that back certainly to the group, to the work.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, anything that we've missed off, or you think we might miss off, let Steve know, and we can definitely make sure that we find a nice home for it. Right.
It does go off. I absolutely, I completely agree with what Councillor Wigram was saying. Absolutely, I think that this might sound very, very sad, but I do enjoy going around town halls, and those people that walk down the stairs in Flintshire, you've no idea what it is unless you walk around Glasgow town halls, civic offices, civic chambers, what stairs are. So I think it's important that the history is kept all the way through. I once went to an open air museum in Germany where they had buildings from across the Rhineland, and everywhere you went in them, there was one specific area which was about democracy, and they had all the traditions of even the good one. Both had the modern German Republic and the Nazi ones, but they were saying this is the danger. Now I do believe that when we're looking at these here, they represent a very, very strong democratic tradition. So I would not like to see them just hidden away or locked away. And if we can find some way to go and do it, I mean, it's interesting that we do have places like Greenfield, which may be a home that could be used for something like this. I would say that's the main thing. So I think the history part of it, whether it could be addressed really well, I'm sure it can be, because the other thing that's always with me, that heritage makes money. We can't afford to lose money on that. Just another one. We've nothing. I know it's a very, very small thing, but we've looked at different facilities and rooms and whatever. For each of the rooms, has any decision been made yet about the bins which are going into them? Because I have mentioned it to people, and I said, yeah, great idea. But we are sitting there discussing recycling. And I go in our council chamber, and there's no recycling facilities in there. The main bin outside the offices, by the bus shelter, isn't for recycling. So I think when we're going through this, I think when we're looking at how we install waste and recycling, that this building has to be an absolute exemplar. You know, we can't go to Welsh Government and say, let us off the infraction charges. We've got to practice what we preach all the time. And then the final one is a very small one, but I do like the name County Hall or Shire Hall. There's been a Shire Hall and a County Hall in Flintshire for ages. Tidui San, nice name, but I reckon you can find it in almost every Welsh local authority or city or whatever. It's very anonymous. Flintshire, I should say that if you can look at the name, because I think County Hall, it's very clear to people where the centre is. You go and say this, Tidui San, and it's like, what? Where's that? If you go and say the name is Shire Hall, County Hall, you know exactly where you are talking about. You know, you don't go and get, St. George's House in like Liverpool. It's the city chambers, this town hall. And I think that's saying that kind of recognition of where the centre here should be recognised in the name of the building. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Maybe that's a notice of motion that you would like to put forward to full council. Councillor Mullin, I believe you're next.
Just one, and something that I've just been told a couple of times, and I'm looking at, as they call it, the world of leather. Will that be being disposed of? Could it go to charity or whatever?
Unfortunately, the furniture doesn't have fire
Regulations.
Fire certificates on them, so it can't be repurposed or donated. Unfortunately, yes. Yeah, we have checked that out. Absolutely, yeah. There's plenty there. Yeah. No, unfortunately, because it doesn't have fire regulation approval, then it can't be repurposed elsewhere or donated. Unfortunately.
It's that old, Billy.
A bit like yourself?
No, I was like, right. Any more questions? Oh, sorry, right, Councillor Lloyd.
What I've just thought of. Passes. Now, I think last time I went to TW Centre, I could get in and everything. So will they work both those places? I'm sure you can't get in every door there with them, but surely we're not going to have new passes, are we?
No, Chair. I'm advised that the passes will be fine to be used in Tidui Sant, and members will have access to where they need to get access to. So you won't have to turn up at reception, be buzzed through, for example. You will be able to use your pass to get through where you need to get to. Obviously, if you can't get into a particular room, you're not allowed in there. As simple as that. And they are looking to redesign some of the flows around so that you don't have to. So everywhere you need to get to is easily accessible to members. So you're not having to be knocked through or let through into a door to use the toilet facilities, for example, or other things. So where you need to get to, you'll be able to get to. I've been assured.
And the last question: parking. Will there be sufficient parking?
Chair, I am told there is sufficient space for car parking at Tidui Sant. Yes, we will need to obviously make sure that, particularly on council days, that there is room for everyone, members, officers, to be able to park safely and securely. There is, I think, there's a public car park in front of the Tidui Sant currently, and members will need to go through the barrier. There's a barrier system to restrict other individual parking. One thing that I've noticed, I've only been there a few times, but on the road leading up, it's very difficult to get through because there are lots of cars parked on one side. Not sure where they come from, probably local businesses or whatever. But I'm told that there is ample parking, or sufficient parking for everyone to have a space.
Yes, I doubt there's ample, but sufficient. Right, thank you. Right, so if there's no more questions, can we move now, please?
Yep.
Yep. So that the committee notes the comments made by the working group in relation to the move from County Hall to Dewisant. The working group monitors the progress during the transition from County Hall to Dewisant and reports to the June meeting of this committee. To the June meeting of this committee.
Yeah, if I can clarify, I mean, it can report to March as well if so needed, but March may be a bit, there may still be some issues that need to be finished or mapped out afterwards. So we can report to March as well as June if that would be the committee's wish. So
I think that's essential, and that's so March and June, right? And that the visits are arranged by yourself to Dewisant for elected members ahead of the move. And it's probably going to be early February. Okay, right, move. Those in favour? Yeah. Thank you. Right, so if we could move on now to member workshops.
Thank you, Chair.
It's yours again.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. The title probably does need updating because it's more to do with member development and training, I would suggest, is rather than workshops, briefing and seminars. That's the sort of long-standing title of this report that it's been even before I started nearly 3 years ago now. So I've just continued that, but it may be worth updating the title. But it's more to do look at how the council delivers training for members. I think. And based on the majority of feedback from the induction programme back in 2022, that was quite well received by members, and the range and types of sessions delivered did assist members taking on the roles, both returning members and the new members. Obviously, there's things we can do to improve that, but I think on the whole it was quite well received, particularly given where we come from the COVID lockdown and restrictions that were in place beforehand. But I'll acknowledge that down to that I take responsibility that we haven't probably developed that training programme as much as we probably should have done for members. It's been done probably more on a ad hoc, for want of a better phrase, basis, just as and when things have cropped up. So, and what I'm trying to or looking to move towards is more of a planned cycle of or series of events for members, training events, and looking at probably a cyclical sort of approach to it. So year one of the council cycle is induction, focuses on induction to make sure all members, both returners and newer members, have everything they need to enable them to take on their roles. Year two, start developing that into a bit more experience, because I think what we found was that through year one, it works quite well. Year two, there's probably a bit more of a need to look at how we can extend some of those induction sessions and target them at key areas. Years 3 and 4, consolidation. So again, keep not stopping, but making sure that the programs are either refreshed or updated. And then year 5 of the cycle, if it's still a 5-year cycle, when we continue in the future, is to review and plan ahead. So take stock and ensure that the next cycle, induction, etc., is relevant, updated, and key for the next intake of members. Appendix 1 outlines some of the key identified sessions, and I've grouped this into 3. Before it was in 2, so we did call the mandatory some of the sessions, and that did cause some debate when it last brought before council, before the committee, as being mandatory. But so I split it into 3 different sections. The induction section in the first section, which were the main themes that we focused on. I mean, there were more, but these are the sort of, if you like, the foundations for members to get them upskilled as quickly as possible. So it's retaining those at the moment for the first phase. The second phase are the topics deemed mandatory. So they're the key ones that members need to attend or should attend to ensure that they conform to the requirements of legislation, etc., and are aware of things. And included within that, I've sort of, although it's in a separate table, it does tie in with that, is the likes of licensing committee, planning committee, governance and audit do require members who sit on those committees to undertake specific and direct training sessions about those requirements for those, because they're very sort of not niche, but they're very sort of specialised areas for members, so they need to have a particular knowledge of those. And also within that is the chairing skills for meetings. And I think that's come up before now about how to effectively chair a meeting. There are some very good examples, and I think it's key that those members who return but also are new to the roles, and we've had it before about the co-opted members who chair meetings, that they do have that session to ensure that the consistency is across all. And we would extend that to vice chairs as well, because I think it's important that vice chairs do have that access to the same as a chair, because as we've said earlier, there may be times when the vice chair does need to step in and chair a meeting. So it's unfair on the vice chair, who has never had any sort of induction, training, etc., about how to chair a meeting, to drop them in and say, right, over to you then, and you're on your own. So those are the sort of sessions that we would look to deem as mandatory. And then the rest are literally discretionary. So there's a long list, if you like, of topics that will be of interest to members, and it may be that some relate to those on specific committees. So the Social and Healthcare Committee, for example, might look at some of those sessions and think they apply to those more specifically. Other committees might, and some might work across them all. But it'd be down to individual members to sort of, and working with myself, to look at whether they require that level of course or not, and it depends on what sort of roles they're looking to establish and take on. It also allows members to sort of build up a knowledge base over the 5-year period. So if they do stand for re-election and are re-elected afterwards, they do have that skill base and record to fall back on. And it may be that they take on other roles when they do return and change roles potentially. How we deliver them is also key. So there are a number of sessions that do lend themselves to online e-learning, it's called, isn't it? So there is a software package that we have access to, both as officers and members. I will circulate that to the committee to have a look at. It's quite user-friendly and straightforward to use. I will say it's a little bit slow, just to forewarn members that it does take a little bit while to get through the loading of the system. But once you're on there is a section specifically for councillors. So we'll start to build that up in terms of the sessions available to councillors. That's not to say that we're moving everything to e-learning, because not everything lends itself to e-learning. I think there is still a need for a human to be in front of a group of attendees to be trained, and we will continue to offer those sessions in person and remote to allow members to access whichever is most convenient for their particular circuit. For those that work, for example, we'll make sure that we have evening sessions and etc., so that we do try to encompass and encourage all members to attend the sessions. One thing I'm suggesting as well in the report is that we do report back to this committee the success of those courses, and it's not to say X attending and Y. It's the numbers. It's not necessarily individuals that you'll get to see. It's the numbers, because we have 67 members. If only 2 are attending, is there something wrong there? Do we need to look at why that course is not being accessed as much as others might be? So it's just that trying to make it as accessible to members as possible, as interesting to members as possible. So if there are topics that you think, I quite fancy a topic on such and such, needs to go in there, it can be built upon and developed. Obviously, delivery will be dependent on being able to find the appropriate skilled person, whether that be internal or potentially external, to deliver. And cost could become a factor if it's particular types, but we will look to ensure that training is determined based on skill sets and need from officers, from members as they need to. We do access the WLGA. They do have quite an interesting range of topics that are available, and they do have some sessions that deliver to members. And I think there's been one that I think Gareth Owens, the Chief Officer for Governance, circulated about online safety and things to members as well. So there are other
Right,
organisations that do deliver those sessions, and they're often free of charge. So, hence the recommendation that we move to the cyclical approach, and that you receive the regular. Because you're as a committee, you're responsible for monitoring and ensuring that the training programme is suitable for members. So it's important that you can understand from a data set what training has been accessed and what isn't, and then we can look to develop and tweak that if need be. It could be that if we're saying it's an e-learning module, that people can't access it for some reason, and it needs to be moved to a different delivery method, or vice versa. So it's whatever's convenient for members really as well. So I'm happy to take questions, Chair, or suggestions for inclusion.
Thank you, Steve. With the e-learning, I'm assuming it's going to be similar to how education do with the hub, that you will be able to log on at any time of day or night or early morning, complete the whatever session is, and then you will have that recorded on your list. So there will be a record somewhere of what exactly you've done.
You sold it very well, Chair. That's exactly how it would work. Exactly, and that's how it currently works for officers now. We have a set of reports that are available on this piece of software. We have some that are mandatory for ourselves to complete, and we go on. It's usually a video followed by questions afterwards. It's usually in bite-sized chunks, so it's not like a 3-hour session. You have to watch it all the way through. You can do it in manageable, let's say 10, 20 minutes or whatever, depending on the session that you're watching. It saves you progress. It generates a certificate if you require a certificate. So there is an electronic record of all the courses that you attended there as well. So that's something we can build on, and as we improve the offering, that will be made more available and wider for members to access.
Okay, right. And then the only other thing I had was a long time ago, when I first became a councillor here, we were shown various operations that the council were in charge of, and these would be where our refuse sites were, if you didn't already know. I'm sure that somewhere with the technology that we have nowadays, this is easier to do, and there should be some form of video or electronic access so that you can look to see where the recycling is, how the recycling is. So all of that, I think new councillors would benefit from that, from knowing that we have a store of equipment for use mainly for older people in Harden. But if you didn't know it was there and you weren't on social services, you wouldn't know about it. So that type of thing.
Yes, Chair, I think that would be suitable, more appropriate for the induction time for members. So as they come on board as new or return, that we do host that as part of an induction event, or access for members to get that the information. I think what we try or have done in previous is hold, I think they call it the marketplace event, where we have a room where different services and directorates come together and sort of display what they do and offer. And I think last time it was in the A&D room, which it was a very busy session, but it probably didn't allow members the opportunity to visit everything they wanted to, or understand everything that they needed to. So an alternative to that, or to run alongside that, would probably be something that would be of use, Chair. So I will take that back as a suggestion to consider for.
Thank you. Right, open for discussion now. Councillor Coppell.
Thank you, Chair. Just to think in terms of training, and I noticed obviously we had initial training on the Constitution, and it seems nowadays that a more precise and detailed knowledge of the Constitution is required, because it seems to dominate an awful lot of the conversations that we have in the main chamber. So could I ask that going forwards that a more detailed, specific amount of training is done, so we're all on the same page, if that's possible? Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Councillor. I think that is a good suggestion. I use the simple word good. Yeah, I mean, at the start, the induction process is to give a very general overview of how the council function operates, and I think it's key that over the subsequent time, not just the 4 years, but we do then target specific part of the constitution that is relevant and of note and need. So yes, I will take that as a suggestion back to ensure that that is, and it's part of the process that we build on. We don't just deliver one thing and move on and that's it. Never, we revisit on a regular basis and sort of maybe do more. And I think that works quite well with the standards committee, that they have targeted sort of training sessions before they meet, usually on the code of conduct and things. So they pick out a section and then they have a particular focus on and session through that. So we can look to do similar for members over a period of time, certainly, Chair.
We do on planning as well, with planning strategy. Right, Councillor Johnson.
Thank you. Yeah, it's just paragraph 1.07, so the committees that require active members to receive training. I sat on planning committee, sat on governance and audit committee, and one of the things that governance and audits committee does, actually, and standards does as well, to be honest, is they have, you will usually put aside half an hour before their meeting actually takes place. And so, because often there can be quite a complicated issue that you're going through, so members are clear about what's going on. Now, you know, I would suggest that there is merits, in fact, looking at that for other committees when they are sitting, because some of the issues you are getting coming up can be quite complicated. And I can't remember somebody saying to me that if you want to go, if you want to know the answer, you need to know what the question is. And so often, I think when I was sitting in governance and audit, for example, that was very, very helpful, because you think, there's a question here somewhere I've got to go and find an answer to, but I couldn't quite work out what the question I had to go and ask was. So I'm just wondering whether it's just as part of this, whether that kind of approach, the half an hour extra, just for the members to sit down, and just go through the agenda, some of the key issues that may be helpful could be incorporated in part of this here. Thank you.
Chair, yes, I think that's certainly an idea that deserves some merit, and then it also allows us to then, rather than do a full 2-hour session sort of in the middle of the day and in the evening, we can then target the key points in that half hour, whatever session that needs to be for relevant to that committee. So yeah, absolutely take on board that. That's a great suggestion. Thank you, Councillor Johnson.
We used to do this years ago, Councillor Johnson. Okay. Councillor Parkhurst.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Steve, some great work here. I really like the structure that you have put into this document. My only sort of question or concern is regarding the topics deemed mandatory. I can understand the subjects for chairing a meeting or planning or governance and audit, because there would be a sanction to those that if someone didn't complete the planning training, for example, then they couldn't sit on the planning committee. But for the other subjects, what sort of sanction are you anticipating? For example, if a member doesn't complete the carbon reduction training, are they going to be reported to the Ombudsman, or what is envisaged here? I would have thought those other topics probably more sit under the desirable but discretionary.
Right, this is a tricky one to answer. There'll be no sanction for members that do not attend necessarily. There's nothing we can do as a council to sanction members. What I will say is that we will monitor attendance, and this committee will receive reports regularly to committee about numbers attending. We will also likely involve group leaders and seek their encouragement and support in encouraging members to attend. Mandatory may be the wrong term. Highly recommended or that type of thing. Well, the topics that were selected that were in that sort of grouping were agreed by this committee a while ago now. I can't remember the exact time of it when it was, but they were sort of reviewed and rationalised to this number here, so or this list here. So they were deemed by the committee to be the important ones, or the ones that were flagged as mandatory. So in simple terms, there's nothing we can do if members don't attend, other than highlight that to probably the group leaders, and sort of try to encourage and understand why that attendance is not happening, because some of the sort of courses are key to how to save, not save necessarily, but to prevent the council becoming subject of complaints or members of complaints as well. So I think as well within the members' code of conduct there may be something, and I'll need to double check on this, that it does say you commit to undertake training that the authority provides, but I will need to check that if that wording is there. But so it's I suppose they're highly encouraged rather than sort of discretionary might be a better term of phrase for them. And we will look to involve group leaders where we can to get their buy-in to ensure that we do encourage members to attend the sessions where they need to. And I think also we need to make sure that they're accessible to members, that we target them at the right time and the right sort of that's convenient for members, so that we don't make it difficult for members to attend and then say, well, you've not attended, so why not, type of thing. So a pretty long-winded answer to a very simple that probably should have been simplified, but no. They probably should be termed as highly recommended rather than mandatory than Councillor Chair.
Thank you, Steve.
I am hoping there will be a record somewhere of exactly who has attended what. Thank you. Right, Councillor Hodge.
Yeah, first of all, I'd just like to actually totally agree with Councillor Johnson. As a member of the Standards Committee, we have 30 minutes training before every meeting, and Gareth, the monitoring officer, has gone through the code of conduct in great detail in section by section, so it's not sort of an overall view, it's actually very, very intensive. Also, but the other point is sometimes it's useful to raise some sort of training when a particular topic is coming up in full council, etc. The example I'm going to suggest is we all, I don't go into details, but recently I've sat through a hearing as part of the Standards Committee. Now, one of the things that happened before that was we had a full training session on that topic. And the only members who could sit on the hearing were the members that actually did the training. So sometimes it's useful to do a training session at an appropriate time before a certain topic. We know the topic's coming up on main council or one of the committees, and if we can actually signpost a particular piece of training for that subject beforehand, so that when we walk into the meeting, you know, sometimes we walk into corporate and there's so much backwards and forwards, and I'm getting lost and I'm trying to read and play catch up, etc. So when there's something substantial coming on the agenda, then perhaps a training session, certainly for those of us who aren't, I've only done 3 corporate meetings. It would help if we had some training on the subject that's coming, and obviously very important at the moment because we're coming up to budgets, etc. Some training on that would be essential before the meeting. You can come in a bit earlier.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor, for that suggestion. We'll take that on board and look at how we can factor that into the schedules, certainly.
Yeah. Councillor Lloyd.
Thank you, Chair. We did, a while ago, we did have some behavioural training for all councillors, which was mandatory because it said so in the email. I'm not so sure whether all councillors did attend the behavioural training, but I don't think there was any repercussions. As you said, Steve, there's nothing, not a lot you can do. But you know, for new councillors, I think one important thing which, well, I must admit, I help Councillor Shawcross as a buddy, and you can give them lots of advice as a councillor's been there a while, and any new one. So that's an important part of their training. I think he still now rings you. We do a contact for this, you know. So I still help them. I think if new count, you put them in the direction of the Constitution, 598 pages, it might put them off. Thank you, Chair.
I know the feeling. And Councillor Marshall.
Thank you, Chair. Three things I think maybe we should include. First two is GDPR and data protection. Data protection is a bit of a minefield. In the old days, you used to be able to tell people the direction to somewhere, saying, go past the White House, which is Bill Smith's house, and then turn left. Now you can't say that. You have to just refer to the White House. And the person may know that Bill Smith lives there. And if he says, Bill Smith's house, you just have to say, I don't know, I can't tell you. So it's that sort of training about what we can say to people, I think is needed. The third one is safeguarding. I attended a training course in one of my local schools about safeguarding. It was concentrating on safeguarding of the children. But that I realised, because I'm Sean Carden, I've got the honour of being Sean Carden of Father Christmas in the school, but I realised that I needed sort of protection for safeguarding as well, because you're talking about the police to searches and stuff like that. So for just being a volunteer, you know, full disclosure sort of thing. So I asked them about it and I said, you know, we need to be a bit more open here. So this time they stuck me on right in the middle of the stage, so it's visible to everybody, which was great. You know, they accommodated me that way. But I think there is a need for safeguard protection of councillors, because you've got you could be accused of anything, and there's a lot of reputational risk involved.
Yes, Gareth organised a training on safeguarding, which was by the WLGA, was it not? And the first session it was very difficult to log on to it to start with, to register. But once you overcame the technical ways of how you should do this, the first one was excellent. So I can recommend. They've got this exactly what you're saying for the next two. Yeah, right. So.
Chair, those three items that Councillor mentioned, they are on the sort of list. They may not jump out as obvious that they're there, but they are included within there. And it may be the case that we need to be more explicit about where they are in that list, and sort of reorder that so that it does become more evident. And I think some of those may lend themselves to e-learning, as much as we can probably do them in three different ways. We can do a sort of an introduction, possibly way where it's an e-learning module, which gives you a very generic view of what they are. But also, I think you also need the personal side of it, so you can ask questions and sort of have a discussion about topics it raises. So, like I said before, some delivery methods don't lend themselves naturally to everything, and they shouldn't be used to cover everything. So I think if someone's been on an e-learning session and answer the questions, that doesn't mean that say they've had all that they need to cover that topic. They could have just switched it off and then guessed the questions and got them all right, for example. Whereas if you're in the room, you've got that more, you've got the more awareness. So yeah, we will certainly ensure that is highlighted for members. And one thing I would like to look at producing is like a brochure, maybe not a physical brochure, but like a version that members can sort of, it gives you not just the title, but the sort of reasoning and what lessons you will learn from that particular topic. So the title doesn't always give away what the topic's going to be about or the session's going to be about. So you may skim past and think, I don't need that, but then if you read the actual blurb behind it, oh, actually that is what I need to have. And in answer to sort of Councillor Lloyd's, going back to Councillor Lloyd about the behaviour sessions, we are rerunning those this month for those members that didn't or couldn't attend the previous time they were delivered. So we are looking to mop those up. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we are looking to sort of capture those members that either didn't or couldn't attend previously. There were reasons why members couldn't attend last time. So
There's a lot more. I would have had mandatory training, but it isn't. But that's a personal thing. Right. Any more questions? No? Okay. Right. The proposal is that the committee notes the training programme provided in Appendix 1, that members have any suggestions for future development topics. I think we've come up with a few today. They are invited to contact Steve to discuss them, and that the committee receive regular report of attendance at each of the sessions delivered.
But to be clear, that's not named people, it's just.
Okay, yes, I do
Yeah,
understand.
but it's just,
Yes.
just for clarity, just.
Just for clarity, okay.
So-
Right, but would you be providing the group leaders with the names of the their members and their attendance if they requested it?
That information will be available, Chair, yes.
Thank you. Okay, can I have a proposal then, please? Thank you. Seconder? Okay, those in favour? Right, Carrie. Thank you very much, everybody, and for being very tolerant of me today. Next meeting is going to, by the look of what the agenda says, going to be a long one. I'm just preparing you. Okay.
We'll do a training session before as well.
And if we have a training session before, it'll be even longer.